The reality is that there are, lots of companies downsizing, not all companies, right? And you may not know if your industry and or the company you work for will be affected next. And this is equally as important. Now, this may not flow into the resume, but it's an analysis for you and really figuring out, okay, if I were to get downsized and lose my job, is there going to be another role within the organization, or same industry, different company, or maybe I want to branch out into owning my own business. In the event I were to lose my job for X amount of time, do we have income set aside? Do we have that cushion and savings? If I were to explore owning a business, do we have money to invest in that business?
Welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast, where you can escape the corporate trap through franchise ownership. Here's your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, the Franchise Guide.
Welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, your franchise guide, the show where we help corporate executives experience time and financial freedom. Thanks for joining us today. Today, we're going to mix things up a little bit. We're going to do a two-part series on a topic that has been coming up over and over again. It's in the news. It's in the conversations we're having daily, and that's around preparing for job loss or potential job loss. And that's something that is very important. It's relevant much more than it has been in the past. And it's something that I wanted to talk about because I literally have these conversations on a daily basis. So for any new listeners, thanks for joining us today. We help people in career transition, prepare for a job loss, coming out of the military, kind of figuring out what's next. This is an education platform where we help educate and empower individuals in figuring out what their next options are in their careers, whether that be a business, a franchise business, or a combination of a W-2 with a semi-absentee franchise or business. So thanks again for everyone listening. Really appreciate your feedback. So, on today's topic, we're going to do a two-part series. So this is going to be part one. And so we'll dive right in today. So, the reality is that there are, lots of companies downsizing, not all companies, right? And you may not know if your industry and or the company you work for will be affected next. Just had some conversations over the weekends with people that I know really well that were affected by this. So with that being said, we can control, how we react to this, right? We can't control if a company is going to downsize or not, or the industry changes and things like that. But what we can control is how we prepare and how we react to this. So should not be a surprise to anyone. With things changing so much with AI and affecting certain roles and positions. So the way I want to really empower and have you kind of look at it is that at any point in time, that role can either be eliminated, the business maybe goes out of business, whatever the case may be. So how do we prepare in the event something like that happens? So number one, we accept that it can happen, and that it should not be a surprise. Secondly, these are things that should be done now, not tomorrow, not next week, but now in preparing, not knowing kind of what to expect. So some things I always recommend are, number one is getting your resume up to date. You may have been with your employer 5, 10, 15 years and have not updated it since. This is a great time to take it out, update it, put everything on there, your job experiences, why you're a great fit for a candidate, for that job position. And that's going to flow through to eventually to a cover letter, any associations and volunteer work and things like that, because odds are you have a lot more that you can add on there. And as well as, have someone review that, whether that be a career counselor, I would start with just a friend or family member and doing that review. Maybe it's your coworker, maybe you're helping one another out, but adding those in place and, updating the resume and adding everything that's relevant for that next role. So that's a good point. And part two is your own internal resume. And I call this more of a self analysis, more of a self audit. Maybe is a better term for that. And that's really something just for you. And this could be on a Word doc or even better yet, a Google doc that you can share and have other people edit. but just writing down just kind of an overview analysis of what you like, what you don't like, what you're good at, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, opportunities and threats, your SWOT analysis. So writing all that down, experiences, things you liked about your current job or last job, and the things you did not like. Again, this is going to be internal, but this is going to be a little bit more of a kind of self-reflection of figuring out, what are the things you enjoy doing and what are the things that you are good at, as well as the things you maybe don't enjoy doing and are not good at. And this is equally as important. Now, this may not flow into the resume, but it's an analysis for you and really figuring out, okay, if I were to get downsized and lose my job, is there going to be another role within the organization, or same industry, different company, or maybe I want to branch out into owning my own business. So all equally as important. Again, we're not making decisions at this point, but we're getting ready. And again, this is the part where we can control attitude. We can control our time and what we're putting in our efforts. So the resume is followed by the self-analysis, the self-audit. Kind of doing that is super helpful, and I think that will make a lot of sense as you're going through, because then you may have a coworker or family member that may say, you have a great ability to network and you're great with people, and maybe you just, I don't know, maybe weren't aware of that. So it's good to have those people do a review. And, another part of that can also be a financial audit. Maybe that's a second page there, and getting your finances in order and saying, okay, in the event I were to lose my job for X amount of time, do we have income set aside? Do we have that cushion and savings? If I were to explore owning a business, do we have money to invest in that business? Is that something that we want to explore sooner than later, as you are currently, this is for someone that's currently employed. So really getting everything down on paper, so that if you don't have the information, go get the information. If you don't know the balances in your investment portfolios or in your company's 401k, retirement, kids 529 plans, now is the time. I like to update my information monthly via a Google sheet that I can share with my financial advisor, since that's really the whole picture. It has the value of home, it deducts mortgage, I have liquidity, net worth, assets, liabilities, everything listed on one document that I can share, as my financial advisor will deal more with the investments, but not necessarily with the home values and things like that. So this is also a great way to get up to speed, to look at options, to say, if I were to take a job that paid less, would that work? Will we be able to pay our expenses? Or if I want to invest in a business, well, there's going to be some capital, right? There's going to be some skin in the game. Do we have the financial and the updated numbers in order to do that? Running your credit score, if I were to get a loan, well, you got to have credit. So you want to take a look at your score, and maybe years since you have checked that, you may realize that the score is a little bit lower than expected. Now is the time to fix it. What went wrong? If there was a discrepancy on the credit report, taking care of that, and then moving on and getting everything fixed, because that may take, I was working with someone a few years ago, it took a few months to get the credit scores back up to where they needed to be. So, and sometimes there are mistakes. Again, same exact thing. It takes the credit reporting companies time to get get everything updated and accurate numbers. And then finally, presence online. There's so many different social media platforms, but it's a great idea to get your LinkedIn. That's one of the nice B2B platform, great for networking, updated with all your most updated relevant information, employer, skill sets. Maybe you start engaging a little bit, start commenting on colleagues or companies you're looking at or potential employers. Again, just comments, not just saying, I'm looking for a job today, but just commenting and just staying relevant, staying in front of people, I think is not a bad idea. That way you're proactive. In the event you lose your job, you're not scrambling to update the resume, the cover letter, get the financials updated, and start and then create, maybe in some cases, maybe not even have a LinkedIn account. But I think this is a great time to be proactive and kind of figure out, okay, let me get everything out there. Let me get everything updated. So in the event I have that network and I have the LinkedIn account, I can start networking immediately and just being ready for kind of what's to come. So I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into part two of the podcast, but wanted to just kind of dive in and break these up because they're going to be two separate parts. One is more preparation, and then part two are going to be really the next step. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. This was a little bit briefer than episodes we've done in the past, but again, I want to keep this relevant. I want to keep it simple and straight to the point. Sure, there could be a lot more things we can add in there, but these are the blocks. These are the pillars that you can work on. And when's the time to start? Immediately. We don't know what this future will bring, and by doing this, you may find out, you know what? Maybe I just want to own a business outright. My job is not at stake, but I'm not content. I'm not happy in where I'm at. So I want to leave sooner than later. So this will give you a lot more leverage in helping you make that decision. Obviously, there are a lot of other things, but you want to let everyone know in the household that you are potentially exploring other opportunities, or there's a potential for job loss, so that there's no surprises. Kind of prepping everyone, letting everyone know, and you'll be shocked sometimes just having conversations at the dinner table. Maybe it's even the kids, if they're old enough, may have some great insights and some ideas. So definitely put it out there, and I don't want anyone to panic, and just I want everyone to be as prepared as possible. So if you like to dive in a lot deeper, listen to part two, or give us a shout, send us a comment. Book a call, ggthefranchiseguide.com. You can book a call, a 20-minute introductory call. We can figure out together where you're at, if a franchise is a good fit, and kind of the next steps of what that process looks like. I encourage you, there's no cost for our service. There's no contracts. And this is an education platform. Who we serve, anyone in the U.S. and Canada that is exploring a franchise and business ownership, corporate executives, current business owners, military veterans, and everyone else. If you're thinking of owning a franchise, maybe you own a handful of franchises right now and are looking kind of for what the next fit is, give us a shout, ggthefranchiseguide.com. You can book that call. You can send us a message, and looking forward to chatting to you. So we'll see you next week with part two, and looking forward to your comments. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to learn how to make the transition from corporate to owning your franchise, join Giuseppe on the next episode. You can also follow on all social media platforms and achieve financial and time freedom today.